Hi everybody, so my name is Derek Herrling. I manage the East Coast Brand Partnerships team for Zynga. We are the largest mobile gaming platform in the US. And I'm really excited to be sitting next to Kalli Chapman. Kalli, why don't you introduce yourself to the team?
Thank you, Derek. Kalli, nice to see everyone today. I'm with Prudential Financial and I lead the paid media team. Been there about 5 years, and before that spent about a decade agency side. So I know Eric.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to jump right in, guys, with a little icebreaker. So because our topic for the day is exploring streaming, CTV, and OTT, little icebreaker questions. So Kalli, what are you watching right now?
Yeah, sadly I'm not watching as much as I used to because of my obnoxious 3 daughters. But when I am finding time to watch, it's usually something that's taken me a very long time to get through, or something that I binge really, really quickly. So recently, my husband and I binged the Beckham documentary on Netflix, which was amazing. I learned so much that I did not know about his story, and I thought it was fabulous. And we've also been watching The Bear for the entire year, season 2 of The Bear, and reason being is it makes me so anxious that I need breaks in between the episodes.
Right. It's an intense one.
So good though. Looking forward to the 3rd season. How about you? What are you watching?
I knew that was coming, right? So we did finish The Bear, and my wife and I, we have to, pick shows we like together, so those don't always come up.
Requires planning.
Yeah, we kind of ran it back. We're watching Veep on Max, which I know is a little bit old school, but we never got to see it, so we are watching it. That's like 1 hour. Yeah, it's nice.
Lighter.
A little light,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. So, given the proliferation of OTT streaming, the fact that linear is still around, and we have this really strong pull towards TikTok, we've got a pretty fragmented media landscape. So what insights or systems are you relying on to inform your media mix strategy as we're heading into 2020?
Yeah, I think key for us is just always evolving. And so some of that can come from really wonderful data grounded in our own historical performance. We do a lot of work with Ipsos as well as Kantar, so we've got a good amount of historical advanced analytics. But at the same time, as the landscape is changing and new platforms continue to increase in adoption, you're not going to get all the signals you need from your marketing mix modeling, right? So it's also just keeping up with what the consumption trends are, making sure you're always staying on top of your toes. For us, it was probably about 2 years ago that it was very clear TikTok was no longer a platform that could be ignored, even for the demographics that we focus on. Reddit was kind of the same case a couple years before that. So it's really just staying open, that test and learn mindset, but also there's a place and a space for the tried and true, and I like how you said linear TV is, it's still a thing. And so sort of just evolving your approach to video to make sure that it really is representative of where your audience is spending their time and where they're engaged. And even that requires, I think, a fair amount of experimentation, right? Like, what are you buying through direct partnerships, more strategic relationships, versus where can you have that level of centralization through your DSP. We work a lot with the trade desk to make sure that you're maximizing your dollars and controlling for reach and frequency, because that can be really hard if you keep it, all fragmented in individual deals.
I love that. Mobile gaming is also pretty good too.
That's right.
So you've been at Prudential for 5 years now, and I know you were on the agency side before that, working at Horizon and on entertainment clients. A little different, financial services versus entertainment.
Just a little different.
Obviously, different go-to-market strategies. You guys have very different timelines in terms of campaign launches. What did you bring forth from your past that maybe has informed your present? And was there anything when you got to Prudential you were like, you know what, we got to shake this up a little bit?
Yeah, still 5 years later that happens. I think, when you make a change like that from an entertainment world to financial services, you really do have to go in eyes wide open and expect certain things. Most of that was true, right? Different culture, a lot more regulation, just longer timelines to get things done, whereas I always actually say everybody should spend some time in entertainment because just the amount of experience you get in such short time frames is like unprecedented. And so I think my role is often sort of just challenging the status quo, how things have been done, shaking things up, making people look at them a little bit differently. Like, does it really need to take 4 weeks to get this done? I think we could probably find another way. And then going back to what we talked about before, like, you know, new platforms and new testing, like you really do have to do a lot of education to get people comfortable with that.
That's great. I appreciate that. So going back, I don't know if you guys know this, but Prudential was established in 1875.
Almost 150 years.
150 years. So, and again, for older generations, they obviously know the brand. But how attuned are younger generations to it, and what insights are you guys drawing from to sort of, I guess, modernize this iconic brand, but you still need to hold on to that, you know, brand equity that you guys have obviously built up over the last 150 years?
Yeah, completely. It's actually surprising. Younger audiences like tend to be a bit more open and have less preconceived notions. So they have a little bit more space to try new brands and to think of maybe legacy brands like ourselves just in a different way. So I think it's really about expanding your research to make sure you're getting the data on those audiences and know sort of how you can speak to them. So about 2 years ago, we expanded our brand health tracker to really start to look at those younger and emerging audiences. Because you know, if you're not talking to them now, when they are ready to make those decisions, those big financial decisions, you're really sort of too late. So just getting a pulse on what will resonate. So everything from the brand health tracker, but also social data. What is the conversation? What's going on the ground when we're out there from a sponsorship standpoint? But yeah, I think common theme to what I was saying before. You really need to evolve with the audience and learn with them, and sort of throw out a little bit of what you think that you know.
You got to keep the funnel going, right? Everyone has to keep going.
That's right.
So switching gears a little bit, when we're talking about consumer attention, consumers we know have very short attention spans, and we were talking about this before with our kids, right? So how are you guys sort of breaking through that clutter from a media and content perspective with the latest trends and opportunities for CTV and streaming, etc.?
Yeah, I think that maybe not the answer you'd expect, but especially in this type of a climate, I think it's really about like focusing a bit more, like not trying to be everything to everyone on every platform. So really like figure out where you are going to lean in on those bigger direct partnerships with certain media companies and do more integrated stuff versus where you really can leverage technology to do it smarter. Because I think otherwise, you know, if you're just putting a drop in a bunch of different buckets, you can't break through. Like you really do need to focus and not spread yourselves too thin to make the impact. And then obviously, you know, at the end of the day, the creative messaging that we're working with, right? Like, just again, flipping what you think you know works and trying and experimenting with different ways to speak to new audiences.
Okay, so we're going to move on and talk a little bit about measurements. So as a follow-up, right, how are you guys balancing the measured ROI between top of the funnel and obviously, you know, the bottom? We all have stakeholders we have to answer to, performance metrics, etc. I'm just curious, how are you guys measuring that, and how are you guys taking care of the whole picture?
Yeah, this is probably where I spend most of my time, and it's time well spent, right? A lot of it is educating internal stakeholders. You know, I kind of like hate, but we all use like the whole brand versus performance marketing terminology and all these things. Like, it can all be brand, it's all brand, right? But there's short-term and there's long-term objectives, and some things are better at one than the other, and some can do both quite nicely. So I think, like I spoke about some of the work we've been doing with Ipsos over the past 18 months, that's been really, really key for us, just looking at how can we lay the right foundation from a measurement standpoint, so that then as we are doing more of that experimentation, you actually can get the right insights to sort of guide your strategy long term. But I think that often when you're educating the internal stakeholders, people are surprised. Like, people do think traditional linear television and just think top of funnel, right? But like, it's not what the data often is showing you. There is quite a long-term effect on sales when you're buying that medium, and of course all nuances for all of the channels. But I think it's just about sort of continuing to find the balance between each channel and the short and the long term, versus maybe like pigeonholing things in certain buckets as brand or as performance or as top of funnel or as bottom of funnel.
So everything's working together.
Right. And that balance, I would say, is always changing based on the macroeconomic factors at play.
Got it. That's great. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about your communication strategy. I know Prudential has really evolved, I think, over the last couple of years. Back in 2021, you guys launched Who's Your Rock campaign. And this past year, and back in 2022, you guys launched Now What? I think around the US Open.
Men's World Cup.
World Cup.
Yeah, the end of 2022, which was like the best cultural moment to launch in, because if everybody remembers, that was just a phenomenal tournament. So yeah, we launched that new campaign then, and it's been evolving ever since. And that was when we started our partnership with McCann, and so they've been hugely instrumental in sort of developing that campaign platform. But it was really, yeah, like thinking of what do you see a lot in financial services. Often you sort of use maybe more challenging moments as the time to think of how to become more prepared or think about retirement or life insurance, whatever it might be. So it's really flipping that and using these more optimistic moments in your life, these now what moments, and you could have very small now what moments or very large now what moments. But as a point in time to really think about your financial future, because at the end of the day, there are huge gaps in this country when it comes to people underinsured and retirement, huge gaps. And so if you can use some of those more happy, upbeat, inspiring, everyday moments to incite that type of thinking and conversation and be a part of it, you know, we've been seeing some great results from that campaign and market.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before, that it's those life moments that you think about, right? When you get engaged, when you get married, it's all those things that are now playing into what that future of your life is going to be. So, all right, so we're going to change up here a little bit on a personal note, maybe. So who is your rock, and what inspires you to think about the answer to your now what moment in life?
Oh man! All right, get ready. I'm going to hit you back.
Yeah. Crushing my thought process.
Yeah, you know, those chaotic children of mine are also probably my rock. I think like the traditional thought is usually that like the parental figures are the rock for the children. I'd say it's probably the reverse. This generation that is up and coming, so I guess all my kids would be Gen Alpha? Gen Alpha, yeah, no Gen Zers in there, okay. But man, they are cool, they are inspiring, they are very in tune with their mental health. They have mindfulness corners in their classrooms. It's beautiful. There's not as much stigma. And so I would say my children, yeah. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration, for sure. How about you?
I mean, if I don't say my wife, we're in some trouble. The tape is going.
Yeah.
I will say, though, definitely my wife, and maybe I read the question wrong, but what inspired the now what moment? I had a now what moment when we were dating. We got to the 3-year mark, and you either had to go left or right. And my wife turned to me and said, "I'm going to give you a week to figure it out." And like 36 hours later, I called her up going, "I'm sorry," and thank the Lord I did that. So that was definitely a now what.
Yeah. That is a great one. So goes to your wife.
Yes. Okay, so you've been doing this, obviously you've been in media for a very long time, but is there one campaign where you saw that maybe you didn't execute, you were like, I wish I could have done that? What is that one thing out there?
Yeah, because it's timely, I have to use it, and I haven't looked yet, so if it is officially out, which I think I saw a headline this morning that it is out, but when Spotify first came out with the Wrapped campaign, which was, gosh, was it 10 years ago now? No, maybe not
It's like
quite.
today.
But now it is a piece of culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, I look forward to my Spotify Wrapped every year. And when it first came out, like seeing the way that they were using that data on billboards to just like make you stop and be like, what Justin Bieber song was streamed how many times? Like, it's just, to me, it's like iconic. And so those are the types of campaigns that I think we all aspire to be a part of.
That's great. That is a great one. I know it just came out today.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah. Okay, so last question. Here we go. So as we look into the future, we're not going to say crystal ball, but we are going to say 2024 and beyond. What is a sense of your expectations and predictions for the future of streaming television, connected TV, OTT, etc.? And you can go as far out as you want.
Okay. Well, I would say that and we're headed on this direction, but my hope would be that we continue down the path of increased transparency, for sure. I think that is really, really vital, especially in the streaming landscape. A little bit broader, but I would say I'd hope that we also continue to remember that creativity is key, and no technology is going to replace that human element that exists, and there's a place and a space for both, and they can work together so we can all do better work and spend less time on the stuff we don't like to spend time on. And then data, I would say, like with data, similar to transparency, but gosh, I just hope like we all continue to get it together a little bit. Like, how many different state regulations do we need? Can we like have things a little bit more clear? I think that most consumers actually value sharing their data when they get something out of it. So like, I think that there's a lot of noise in the system around data that we probably are just not doing ourselves any favors, and just we need a branding campaign for data.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have a question for Kalli? You're coming too.
So looking at streaming and CTV specifically, how do you see the future of ad-supported versus subscription-based, as you see some of the challenges that Netflix and Max have had, but also consumers wanting to cut down some of their own costs by paying for so many services? Do you have a POV on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we will continue to see the increase in ad-supported. I think you're going to get a lot of people that are converting their subscriptions, bigger adoption than maybe expected with certain platforms, especially as you're tightening the ability to share, right? Across most platforms, that's become an issue. So I do think that will continue to go up, and then I think for us in the advertising ecosystem, it's really just about finding the right way to sort of look at these things collectively, because it is still so fragmented, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, even with some of these large mergers that have happened over the past few years. So figuring out like the best way to approach it using technology to its fullest, so that we're really maximizing our dollars to reach the right target audiences.
I'll ask a question then.
Oh,
Please.
Have you as a brand been exploring interactive CTV, dynamic CTV, and layering data and trying to connect across platforms and people that have viewed the ad on streaming platforms and connecting, whether it's desktop or mobile phones or things along those lines?
Yeah, so definitely more on the data piece, less on the interactivity perspective. I'd hope to get there. It's a little bit more challenging in our business, and to be fair, we are still pretty nascent as it relates to direct-to-consumer. So I think as we grow that piece of our business, there'll be more opportunity to unlock and test out some of the interactivity. We have a new retirement planning platform called Stages for Retirement that rolled out this year. So as like those types of utilities, and we have a true value prop of engage with us right now in this way to offer people, I think we'll get there, but not quite yet.
Cool.
all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.